Mark, how does clear, effective communication enable a project to succeed, in your opinion?
All right, so it's one thing to understand what it is you want built.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different thing to then communicate that to the people who are going to build it. We've talked about breaking jobs up into bits.
Yep.
Being able to break the job up into bits means you have to be able to talk really clearly to the people that you're going to discuss things with. So the first question, of course, is what are we doing? Everybody needs to understand that at some level. And who's doing what is another thing that you need to provide you with context. When and then kind of how it's going to be done are all things you need. And what are everybody's...
Are you kind of describing my job?
I guess I am. That is...
Well, you are, because the way I've always described my job is what I do is I identify who does what, where, when.
Yep.
And how much of it.
Yep. That's it. That's planning.
Yeah,
planning. That's what it is.
Pretty simple, eh? It's not.
And
it's
also
not really complex,
in that, what are everyone's responsibilities? And once you understand that, then you can start to have conversations. Then you can start to communicate, and that's the basis for the communication. The next thing to think about is to choose the medium, and we're getting more and more of those. You know, if you and I are going to go down to the pub, I'm not going to have my lawyer draft a letter to your lawyer to see if you're okay to go down to the pub this afternoon, okay?
And decide who's going to pay for the beer.
Well, and that, so you and I might need a lawyer, but normal people wouldn't need a lawyer to figure that out. And so I think getting the medium right is important. And one of the ones I don't like all that much is emails when a phone conversation will do.
I hate emails.
It is emails in their place, in the right spot, are a great idea. They're fantastic. It's an enduring communication. Sometimes when perhaps you might not want it to be enduring.
Do you hate it when somebody forwards you an email and says FYI?
Maybe. Particularly if I should have done something and I said, I'll do that for you on Wednesday.
No, I normally...
Now it's Friday.
I always reply back with one letter and say, care.
So getting the medium right is important.
100%. Yeah.
And if you're going to use the medium, you need to use it, right?
But okay, so let's talk about some effective mediums.
Sure.
Yeah. What do you believe are effective mediums?
Okay.
That should be employed in a construction project. I think complex construction.
Sure. I think just about every medium, and that's a great question. Just about every medium has its place.
Yep.
What do you want for lunch? To somebody on a construction site can be a text, right? If you're sending someone, or you're going to the shop to the cafe to get lunch for people, sending a text to somebody who you know is 15 floors up on a building site is a great idea of getting very clearly what they want, especially when you know it might be noisy.
Yep.
Okay, given the rules around use of phones on sites and making sure people can be safe when they communicate, I think that's a great way of talking to somebody. Ringing somebody up to ask them about a variation in a contract that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars is not a great way of doing it. So you've got to choose the right medium for the right environment, and then you've got to use that medium. So where it's noisy, talking on the phone can be fraught with danger. Text messages are great where they're short and sharp. Teams and Zoom are fantastic. But Andy, Teams has got a camera. Use the camera.
Absolutely, always. But here's the problem I have, the Mark. So with most construction projects that I worked on, like you said, picking that medium is quite important. But here's the thing. There's so much disparate data within the industry.
Yep.
Yeah. Always keep coming back to, how does one system correlate and interrelate to the other system, and where's your central data pool or data lake that you then pull insights from to make good data-driven decisions?
Yep.
Right? I'll tell you what, 99.99% of construction projects, I would say, I'd confidently say in the world, do not have that centralized database system where they collate information in a central data lake. It's so disparate, it's fucking ridiculous.
Sure, Andy. So you're talking about rules, right, for establishing that data lake and the basis on which you communicate.
Yeah.
So those rules are really important. If I'm going to talk to you, we can talk all we like, but then I need a system where if I'm making a promise to you, that's going to have some weight and is going to endure, we need to remember what I said and what that promise is. So that's a more formal letter.
Sure.
And so often we'll use phone conversations to get an understanding and to communicate so that we both now have the same idea. Then we'll detail
Meeting of the minds, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
So that we know what we're communicating about.
Yeah.
Then we can formalise that by, I can say, Andy, I'm just going to put down some minutes of a meeting or a note to you, just reflecting our conversation. And that might be, you're going to build a house for me. That's fantastic because I need a new house, right? I'm going to get that house. It's going to be great. We need to talk about what it is. Otherwise, I could end up with a 1-bedroom cottage or a 9-bedroom mansion. Right? You're probably not building me a 9-bedroom mansion if I've paid for a 1-bedroom cottage. But when
I'm not building your house for free. Let's start there. But
and so that's important. So
Yeah.
so understanding what we're doing and getting the contract, if you like, right, requires a whole series of communications. Some will be text, some will be telephone, some will be Teams or Zoom meetings, and then we need to write some of that stuff down. Now, some of that written down communication can be informal. At the level where we're making promises, you build me a house that kind of looks like this, and I promise to pay you some money that's going to be dollars, not shekels. You know, it's getting that right needs a little bit more form, because if things go wrong, we all need to understand the basis on which we're making those promises and what our obligations are and what our rights are.
yeah, I mean, a contract at the end of the day is an intent to act, isn't it?
It is.
It
is.
And there's intentions with which clauses are written, and when shit hits the fan,
Yep.
those clauses are always, more often than not, misinterpreted.
Look,
or swayed to.
They can be.
Yes,
they can be. My overarching thought about contracts, though, is the moment at which you reach into that drawer and start to pull out the contract, that is a touch point in a project. You need to really, before you pull it all the way out, why am I doing this? Why do I need to pull out a contract? Can I sort it out without doing that? Because we all love lawyers.
Do you?
I'm just kidding. But they're not free, right? They're not free, and litigation is very expensive. It is way more expensive than people saying, well, I actually thought that. I can see how you interpret it as that. Look, let's meet in the middle. If you can avoid pulling that contract out, that's a fantastic outcome. And it doesn't matter what the scale of the contract is.
So I think I had a director of McCready Construction on my podcast earlier, and he said he would do everything possible in his power not to pull that contract out.
That's an experienced person.
He's a very experienced person.
Yep. Because I don't think anybody gets through 20 or 30 years of building things without pulling out a contract and then sometime later wishing they hadn't.
Yeah.
Wishing they'd figured it out.
Absolutely.
Because often nobody gets what they want.
Yeah.
Except our friends, the lawyers. They get paid.
Hey, anyways, that was some pretty cool insights, mate.